Alright everybody, how y'all doing? Driving home and listening to the news, and there was, apparently they stopped somebody from taking another shot at Trump, which is a good thing. So he's still running. The thing that keeps being talked about that's starting to bother me a bit is the story about the new alliance between North Korea and Russia. That's not a new alliance. In the Korean War, I know a guy who was a fighter pilot, and they could hear the chatter on the radio of the North Korean, MiGs that they were fighting. And he put some bullets in a couple, and when the plane got in trouble, they would switch right over to Russian. And they knew they were shooting at Russian pilots. He knew it. So the whole alliance between North Korea and Russia goes back to the 40s, and that's irrelevant. But it's being made out to be like this is a new thing. Russia's never been involved in North Korea, and they only have for 100 years. The other thing is North Korea is sending troops to Russia to fight in Ukraine, and people are putting the spin on it. Well, that's because Russia is running out of manpower, and Ukraine has a chance of winning. I think that's the farthest thing from reality. Russia is a huge country. They've got a lot of people. They've already ramped up to war production. They're arming their people. They're training their people. They've got good strategy. Ukraine's a smaller country. They are running out of people. They're dependent on foreign sources like the United States and the European Union and whoever for weapons. They started making artillery shells, which is good, but they can't make the artillery pieces, and the drones find them and they get wiped out. So, yeah, you got bullets, but your guns are all getting broken. I honestly believe that the North Koreans, Z is sending, or whoever his name is sending troops to the battlefield in Ukraine because he wants them to get experience. And why would he need experienced, soldiers? So if Kamala Harris becomes president, they can invade South Korea and have a fighting force that's experienced and knows they're not going to panic. The other thing about the North Korean army is something like a million soldiers in uniform. And it's really unclear if that's full-time soldiers or part-time soldiers or what status their training is, what their specialty is, if they're just shock troops, put them in a uniform and charge them with a machine gun. Nobody really knows. But when you watch the videos of their military parades, the infantry, the soldiers, it goes on forever. It goes on forever and ever. And you got the guys with the missiles, and the missile launcher trucks, and they look reasonably well fed. And then there's videos of those guys, their military going out and kicking trees in half, and just absolute animals. And they look reasonably well fed. But when you watch the military parades and you see this line of people going on forever, and they're all in uniform and they're all marching perfect, and they're all holding a flag and they all got a rifle and everything else. If you notice, they're wearing very small uniforms, and those uniforms are very baggy. So I don't know the condition of those troops. I don't know what their story is. And yeah, they know how to march. But North Korea, aside from marching, hasn't really done any fighting since the Korean War ended. And they got a lot of old garbage. The few MiGs that they have are antique, and they don't get flown because there's other things to spend money on. It's just not a real fighting force. And granted, a real fighting force doesn't have to have the latest technology, but they have to know what they're getting into. They have to a good example. You know, we walked into Afghanistan. We had the best trained forces. We had the best equipment. We had an edge on everything. You know, we even had an edge on manpower, for that matter. But we walked into a hornet's nest of people who just got done with the, you know, in the 70s, the Russian invasion. You know, the war that went on between Russia. And then as soon as that ended, then the civil war with the Northern Alliance and the Taliban and Al Qaeda and everybody all basically just, you know, street mugging each other, and, you know, that going on for everything in between. And then the United States walks in. And you have people that grew up in a culture of war. And they knew how to fight. They knew what to expect. And they knew a bunch of them wouldn't come home. And then that was their culture, dude. You know, the North Koreans don't have that culture. They have the culture of do what you're told, and that's it. But, you know, how many of those million whatever soldiers ever fired their rifle? Who knows? How many are engineers that can put together a pontoon bridge and get tanks traveling across it? Who knows? How many tanks do they have? You know, not very many. So the chances of pontoon bridges is, you know, they might have them in a warehouse someplace. But sending in 10,000 guys that are going to get shelled, you're going to lose a third of them. Rotate that third out, put another third, you know, put another 10,000 in, rotate them out, you know, in a few months, and then send those guys in and have them start being instructors to your military to teach all these guys in the baggy uniforms, you know, how it's going to happen. And you can turn your fighting force into something pretty lethal pretty quickly. At the same token, North Korea has done some peacekeeping with the UN, or excuse me, South Korea has done some peacekeeping with the UN, but they're not known for being, you know, their military prowess either. They have better equipment, you know, supplied by us, but they don't, you know, they're not, you know, they're not a bunch of GI Joes. They're not ready for, you know, a real throwing in the mess and let them go. We were in a warfare culture when World War II broke out. We had a vast majority of Americans, you know, volunteering because they've been doing hard labor for no money and starving, you know, for the last 10 years during the Great Depression. You know, so they knew what tough was about. They knew what hardship was. They, you know, they knew. So that's my opinion. I think North Korea is sending troops into Russia, to get shot up, to get beat up, to get toughened up, and it's just an indication that they're serious about trying to take over South Korea. And they will do that with the help of the Chinese and the Russians. And all the talk was just talk up until now, but now they're actually doing something that will really make a difference in their efforts. Anyways, y'all have a great day.